07 Citizens Black here from CAsaBLACk Gaming, and today's roadmap look is going to be a little different because even though we had some really cool new additions to the roadmap, which paints a better picture of what we can expect later this year with new mission types, and then also the 320 and then post 320 picture has become a little clearer now, there also wasn't much in the way of huge changes to the timeline overall, so I'm just going to touch briefly on what I've tracked without a full line by line of the changes, as most of them were pretty small. So let's go ahead and get to what was added. So first up are the new items added to the roadmap to be tracked. The new deliverables are centered around missions and my personal favorite, reputation, which will bring about the first instances of shop discounts for having a certain reputation, and should later on also allow us to pick up better quality items for FPS combat or maybe even better ship components. The new missions are a stealing of evidence on Korea Station, which should be interesting and maybe get some lawbreakers to the station for something besides just clearing a crime stat. Then we have a cargo hauling mission, which will utilize the freight elevators, which will not be coming until later this year. I will touch more on the freight changes in a video following this one in the next day or so, spotlighting the top 5 features we're watching, which should be out in the next few patches. So subscribe if you haven't, so you can see when that releases. There will also be some stealing or recovery cargo missions, which will greatly give cargo runners something to do. I just want to see if these will be worth the time investment, which I'm sure will scale up in size depending on the level of reputation you might have, or maybe it's by ships based on scaling up as well. If it takes hours to retrieve, let's say, a full C2 load, how will that compensation be? Because it will need to be competitive with other paid missions that take equal times, not to mention how you're going to split it amongst your crew. We're also getting a restoration of ships mission type. This one is also really going to depend on payout, as repairing ships is cool and all, but it needs to be more than just repairing a hull, and will hopefully include repairing or replacing parts as well, which to me also suggests that we might get that bigger salvage tool in game as well. It looks like regardless, these missions are set to have their work completed in November, which matches up with many of these main features being completed at that time, so I think these dates are easy to target and hit, and I'm looking forward to how these missions are further fleshing out more various career paths in Star Citizen. In terms of reputation, as mentioned earlier, we will soon have various shops give us discounts, and more interesting is that some missions will either open up or be barred for us depending on our reputation. Having an alt account might actually come in handy for some of these. Anyway, that is all of the newly added items for this roadmap. Now with the release view, we got 3 more updates, including physicalized cargo targeting 320 with functionality for the hull C, and additional cargo containers up to 32 SCU, which should mean we will start seeing these various cargo containers hopefully across many ships. This has some possibilities to help with performance because some ships could have these instead of the 1 SCU boxes, making far fewer items spawned in on a ship, but we'll see how it goes. The second item is not targeted for the initial 320 release, but a 320.1 or further out point update, and I'm not surprised by this as I called this a few months back, but glad to see the Crusader Spirit A1 is being added. Now I fully expect the C1 to arrive a month or 2 afterward, but honestly do not expect the E1 to make it until sometime next year. Now I'm glad the spirits are finally coming into the game though. So the last item is a little bit of bad news, as the new Crusader platforms did not meet their testing benchmarks due to issues with Rastar, which coincidentally was also pushed out further to September on the roadmap. But I believe this Rastar deliverable pops in and out from time to time as they update it, as it certainly has come in and out since I began following it last fall. Anyway, we might get this feature added in a 0.1 patch with the 320 cycle, so it's possible that we still see those Crusader platforms come back with a minimal delay. It just needs more time in the oven. Now might this have been what held up the most recent Evocati testing, which saw some builds fail? Now I'm not part of Evocati, so please do not take what I say as gospel, it's just what I heard and was putting 2 and 2 together. Anyway, that's it for the normal roadmap updates. Now it's time for me to break down some of the deliverable changes that I track. So with almost every single roadmap update we get, we also get some unpublicized changes that happened that the average player or content creator might not pick up on. But since I literally track every single item being worked on and have done so for months now, I also have started tracking each of the team's work on each deliverable as well. This week did not see a lot of major changes, but there were quite a few little additional items that were extended or a shuffling of the teams. Now I will not go over all of those, but I did want to point out a few of the major ones. The Argo SRV has not shown any work since the third week of February, but all of a sudden the US vehicle content team did some work in July, which ended this week. Now while that's not odd, it does show that some vehicle tractor beam work is progressing, which I will touch on again in that 5 top features video I'm releasing tomorrow. Physical damage and breakability has shown completed since mid-June, but had time extended through mid-August. Now this might be in regards to the vehicle munching and more salvaging, so this work is welcome and will only help get those more advanced salvaging features in the game sooner. Vehicle tractor beams had more time added, extending it out from mid-June through the end of September, which to me says that there's still a quite bit more work before we see this feature pushing it to a 3/21 release date in my eyes. Alright, and that's it for the big changes that I saw on the roadmap from what I'm tracking. Now, as I mentioned, there were quite a few minor changes or time added to specific teams, but nothing that really shook up too many time frames, as those mostly came with the upstream and downstream team changes that we had the last couple of roadmap updates. And that's going to do it for this brief look at the roadmap for July 26th. This roadmap had some nice seismic changes that we can look forward to later this year, and I'm glad to see the Spirit is confirmed to be arriving within the next few months, as I'm excited for Crusader's take on a medium ship in that same Cutlass and Freelancer class, even if it has a different role than those ships. Also, I'm pretty pumped for the mission and reputation changes that are coming, but what about you guys? Are you excited for the changes? Let me know down in the comments below, and as usual, I want to thank you all for the support. It means a lot to be able to interact with you all in the game that we mostly love, even if that love can be begrudgingly at times. Anyway, remember to be kind to your fellow gamer, watch out for crane kicks, they will certainly have you rubbing your face in the mat, and stay positive citizens.